Today we're just going to take a look at a couple of stories about some disappearances, each one more perplexing than the last one. If you enjoy these stories, make sure to let us know in the comments down below. Let's get into it.
Woodland Park, Colorado is a picturesque town nestled in the foothills of the Rocky Mountains. It's known for its stunning natural beauty and its close-knit communities. And it was this tranquil setting where Kelsey Bereth, a 29-year-old mother, disappeared under mysterious and tragic circumstances in late November 2018. Kelsey was a devoted mother to a young daughter, and she was engaged to Patrick Frazee, with whom she shared a life with and her child. The day of Kelsey's disappearance, November 22nd, 2018, started just like any other. Kelsey was last seen in the Safeway grocery store in Woodland Park, captured on CCTV. Dressed in a red jacket and jeans, she appeared calm, collected, preparing for the upcoming Thanksgiving holiday. In the footage, she shopped for groceries and went around her day as usual. The video would be the last confirmed sighting of her, and what followed was a series of increasingly disturbing events. Later that evening, Kelsey was supposed to visit Patrick, her fiance, at home, and they had a young daughter together, and it was expected that Kelsey would drop off a kid. When Kelsey failed to arrive and missed the scheduled visit, that's when her family and friends grew quite alarmed. Sudden absence was just out of character, and they quickly realised something's definitely gone terribly wrong if she's not there. As the night wore on with no sign of Kelsey and her family contacted authorities, that prompted a full-scale search. Law enforcement and local volunteers began the efforts. Hoping to find any trace of her, the initial search was focused on her known locations, her home, her vehicle, the area surrounding the Woodland Park. Investigators quickly reviewed the surveillance CCTV footage, and from the Safeway, it revealed nothing beyond Kelsey's routine shopping trip. Investigators quickly expanded the searches, tracing her phone records and any financial banking transactions, trying to find any leads. They scrutinised her home, her vehicle, for any signs of foul play, and conducted interviews with those close to her. Despite all of these efforts, no significant clues emerged. The case became more troubling as the days passed, with any initial hope of finding Kelsey slowly fading. Days quickly turned into weeks, and then, weeks into the search, a crucial development came up. On December 21st, 2018, Kelsey's phone was discovered in a remote area near Fraser, Colorado. The discovery was significant as it suggested that she'd travelled from her last known location. The search efforts were just reinvigorated, the teams combing through the rugged terrain around Fraser. Despite renewed efforts though, the search yielded no additional leads, and Kelsey's whereabouts still remained a mystery. However, as the investigations continued, suspicion began to focus on Patrick. Initially, Patrick had cooperated with the authorities, and evidence began to mount, and his behaviour grew increasingly suspicious. In a dramatic turn of events, he was arrested, and the case took a shocking twist when he confessed to Kelsey's murder. Patrick Frazee's confession revealed a premeditated and gruesome crime. According to his statements, he had meticulously planned her murder. He described how he lured her to a location and subsequently disposed of the body in a remote area. His chilling account led investigators to a rural area in Idaho where, in February 2019, they found Kelsey's remains. The discovery brought grim resolution to the case, but it was a devastating blow to those who knew Kelsey and hoped for a different outcome. The aftermath of Kelsey's disappearance and Frazee's confession marked a legal battle that further exposed the dark details of the case. In November 2019, he was arrested and convicted of first-degree murder and other related charges. The court sentenced him to life in prison without any possibility of parole, ensuring that he would never be free again. This conviction brought some measure of justice, but did not ease the pain of Kelsey's family. Terrence Woods Jr. was 27 years old with a bright future ahead of him. He was raised in Maryland. He was well known for his adventurous spirit, his sharp intellect, and his passion for storytelling. After earning his degree in journalism from Penn State University, he quickly made a name for himself around the world
doing some high-profile projects on television sets. His resume was impressive for someone so young. His talent and dedication had taken him to many places most people only dream of, from the bustling streets of London all the way to the remote wilderness of Alaska. In October 2018, Terence found himself in yet another remote location. This time, it was rugged wilderness of Idaho. Terence was working for a UK-based production company on the Discovery Channel's popular show Gold Rush. The crew had been on location for several days at the abandoned Pennam mine, a site nestled deep within the dense forest of Oro Grande, Idaho. The area is known for its challenging terrain, steep embankments, thick underbrush, and the sense of isolation that could only unsettle the most seasoned outdoormen. But for Terence, it was just another job. It was just one more adventure in a career filled with them. On the morning of October 5th, 2018, the crew woke early, just like they did every single day during the shoot. The air was crisp, there was a chill of autumn settling in over the mountains. The crew gathered there for the morning briefing, going over the day's schedule and discussing the shots that they needed to capture. For most, it was just another day on set, filled with the usual hustle and bustle of television production, but for Terence, something felt off. In the days leading up to the 5th, some of Terence's colleagues had noticed a change in him. Normally outgoing and enthusiastic, Terence had become more reserved, more introspective. He seemed anxious, distant, distracted, as though something was weighing heavily on his mind. It was a subtle shift, but noticeable for those who'd worked closely with him. When asked if everything was alright, Terence just simply nodded and said he's fine, brushing off any concerns, but behind his calm exterior, there were signs that something was not right. That morning, as the crew set out to film, Terence's anxiety just seemed to be building. He was quiet, not being his usual self, his light-hearted banter absent as he focused on the tasks ahead of him. The crew that was filming in that particular remote section of the forest, near the steep slopes that surrounded the abandoned mine. It was a challenging location, with a thick underbrush making it difficult to navigate, and a steep terrain added an extra layer of danger in the shot. But for Terence, he'd worked on similar difficult conditions before, so it shouldn't have been anything out of the ordinary. And yet, as the day wore on, the unease just seemed to grow. Despite his apparent anxiety, Terence continued just doing his job, helping the crew set up shots, managing equipment, and ensuring that everything just ran smoothly. But as the hours passed, his colleagues just couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Terence just seemed distracted, his mind elsewhere. At one point, he was even seen standing at the edge of a steep embankment, staring out in the dense forest. When he was asked what he was looking at, Terence just simply shook his head and walked away, offering no explanation at all. By the late afternoon, the crew was already beginning to wrap up for the day. The sun was starting to dip below the mountains, casting long shadows across the forest, and then, as the crew was packing up their equipment, Terence's behaviour took a sudden, unexpected turn. Without warning, Terence just dropped his radio, turned, sprinted towards the edge of the embankment. His colleagues called out to him, confused and concerned, but Terence just didn't stop. He didn't even look back. In a matter of seconds, he had disappeared in the thick underbrush, running down the steep slope into the dense forest below. The crew were obviously stunned. They couldn't even comprehend what just happened. They were frozen in place. Suddenly, a rush of panic came over them all. They began to call out for Terence, searching the area where he'd just disappeared, running to the forest's edge, shouting, but they just couldn't see anyone. They couldn't see anything. It was just darkness. Terence was nowhere to be found, as if the wilderness had just swallowed him whole. The disappearance of Terence Woods set off a massive search operation. Local law enforcement searched with rescue teams, volunteers. They all joined forces, scouring the area for any sign of him. Helicopters and drones were brought in for the search area above, while ground teams searched. Dogs combed through the underbrush, and despite their exhaustive effort, there was just no trace of Terence, no footprints, no clothing, no sign of a struggle. It was as if he just vanished. And as the days passed with no new leads, eventually the search was just scaled back, and then the vast wilderness of Idaho with its rugged terrain, thick forest, it seemed to be proven to be an impenetrable barrier. The cold weather and harsh conditions only added to the difficulty of the search, so as hope began to fade, the questions surrounding his disappearance only grew. What could have driven Terence to run off so suddenly? Why had he been acting so anxiously all day leading up to his disappearance? And perhaps most troubling of all, why did he tell his partner just days before that he wanted to come home early? These were the questions that plagued his family, his friends, and those who had worked with him. His parents, who had initially been excited about his latest projects, were left devastated and disappointed. They couldn't understand why the son, who had always been so enthusiastic about his work, would suddenly just want to leave, and certainly couldn't understand why he would just disappear with no trace. As the investigation continued, the lack of concrete evidence led to widespread speculation, and some theorised that Terence might have just suffered a mental health crisis, possibly brought on by the isolation and stress of filming in a remote location. Others wondered if there was something more sinister at play, whether he'd really seen something or someone had frightened him, leading to him to flee into the forest. But without any evidence to support any of these theories, they just remain speculation. This recent case of Terence Woods is a reminder that dangers can come within the working in a remote, challenging environment. Television industry, known for its high demands and intense pressures, often take its crews to some of the most inhospitable places in the world. So for Terence, who'd worked in these conditions before, it was supposed to be just another adventure, another day, another story to tell. Instead, it became the story of his disappearance and a mystery that continues to haunt those who knew him. Despite the continued efforts by his family and the occasional resurgence by the public interest, Terence Woods just remains missing. His case remains unsolved. The wilderness of Idaho, a vast and unforgiving, holding many secrets, and Terence's disappearance is now one of those most perplexing mysteries that is hidden in Idaho. For those who knew and loved him, there remains hope that one day they'll uncover the truth and they'll know what happened to Terence Woods on that fateful day in October. What do you think would have happened to Terence Woods? Was it a case of sudden mental distress, or maybe something more sinister at play? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments section below. And if you found this story as haunting as I did, please consider liking and subscribing for more deep dives into some of the world's most mysterious and unsettling cases.